There's a certain kind of magic that happens when an ordinary person steps into a television studio for the very first time. The lights feel brighter than expected, the set looks bigger than it ever did on screen, and suddenly, everything becomes real. For one contestant on Tipping Point, that moment wasn't just about playing a game. It became an unforgettable encounter that revealed something surprisingly heartwarming about the man at the center of it all, Ben Shephard. Before even stepping onto the stage, the contestant admitted to feeling completely starstruck. After all, Ben isn't just a host you casually recognize, he's someone many viewers feel they already know. His calm voice, easy smile, and friendly energy have been part of people's daily routines for years. But there's always that quiet question in the back of your mind, is he really like that in real life? Apparently, the answer came quickly, and it wasn't what some might expect. As the contestant walked onto the set, nerves kicked in instantly. It's one thing to watch the machine drop counters from your living room sofa, and another thing entirely to stand there knowing every decision is yours to make. The pressure builds, your thoughts race, and even simple questions start to feel a little heavier. That's when Ben stepped in, not just as a host, but as something closer to a reassuring presence. Instead of rushing through introductions or sticking strictly to the format, he took a moment, a simple smile, a light joke, and just like that, the tension began to melt. It wasn't over the top or rehearsed. It felt natural, like talking to someone who genuinely wanted you to feel comfortable. And that small moment made a big difference. Because suddenly, it didn't feel like standing in front of a national audience. It felt like having a conversation. As filming went on, something else became clear. Ben has this way of reading people, noticing when someone is nervous, when they need a little encouragement, or when they're just on the edge of second-guessing themselves. And instead of letting those moments pass, he leans into them with a mix of humor and kindness. At one point, when the contestant hesitated over a question, you might expect silence or pressure to answer quickly. Instead, there was a gentle comment, a playful remark that made everyone laugh, and just enough space to breathe again. It's a small detail, but in that environment, it means everything. Off-camera, things didn't suddenly become distant or formal. In fact, the opposite seemed to happen. Between takes, there were casual conversations, shared laughs, and moments that felt surprisingly down to earth. The kind of interactions you don't usually associate with someone who's been on television for so long. There was no sense of ego, no feeling that he was above anyone else in the room. If anything, he blended into the atmosphere in a way that made everyone else feel more at ease. And maybe that's where the real surprise lies. Because when people hear phrases like "true colors exposed," they often expect something dramatic, something unexpected. But in this case, the truth wasn't shocking, it was refreshing. Ben Shephard, according to someone who experienced it firsthand, is exactly what he appears to be, just with a little more warmth behind the scenes. There's also a playful side that doesn't always make it to the final broadcast. Little jokes between takes, quick-witted comments that catch people off guard, and that easygoing humor that keeps the energy light even during long filming sessions. At one point, the contestant described a moment where a simple mistake turned into a shared laugh rather than an awkward pause. Instead of moving on quickly, Ben leaned into the moment, turning it into something memorable. And those are the moments that stick. Not the perfectly answered questions or the dramatic wins, but the human interactions, the laughter, the encouragement, the feeling that you're not just part of a game, but part of an experience. There's also something quietly charming about the way he interacts with people. It's not loud or attention-grabbing, but it's there, in the way he listens, in the way he responds, and in the way he makes even brief conversations feel meaningful. For someone who walked in feeling starstruck, that charm could have been overwhelming, but instead it felt welcoming. Almost like the gap between TV host and real person disappeared completely. And that's not something you hear
can
every day.
sometimes create distance. It can make people seem larger than life, a little untouchable, almost like they belong to a different world. But moments like this remind you that behind the screen, there are real people who bring their own personality into everything they do. In this case, That personality seems to be built on a simple combination: kindness, humor, and a genuine enjoyment of connecting with others. As the game continued, the contestant found themselves relaxing more with each round. Decisions became clearer, the nerves settled, and the experience turned into something they could actually enjoy. And a big part of that shift came down to the atmosphere Ben helped create. Because hosting isn't just about guiding a show from start to finish. It's about setting the tone. It's about making sure that everyone, from contestants to crew, feels comfortable enough to be themselves. And from what was shared, that's something he does effortlessly. Even after filming wrapped, there wasn't a sudden rush to disappear or move on. There were final words, friendly exchanges, and a sense of appreciation that didn't feel rushed or scripted. It felt real. And for the contestant, that left a lasting impression, one that went far beyond the outcome of the game itself. Because long after the counters stop falling and the cameras stop rolling, what people remember most is how they were treated, how they felt in those moments, whether they felt seen, heard, and included. And in this story, the answer seems clear. Ben Shephard didn't just host a show that day. He created an experience that someone would talk about long after it was over. An experience filled with laughter, a little bit of nervous excitement, and just enough charm to make it unforgettable. So when people ask what he's really like behind the scenes, the answer isn't complicated. He's friendly in a way that feels genuine. He's funny without trying too hard. He's attentive in moments that matter. And yes, he has that quiet charm that makes people feel at ease almost instantly. Not a dramatic reveal, not a shocking twist, just a reminder that sometimes the person you see on screen is exactly who they are, and that can be more surprising than anything else. And maybe that's why stories like this resonate, because they give you a glimpse behind the curtain, only to show you that there isn't much of a difference after all. Just a person doing what they love, making others feel comfortable, and leaving behind moments that feel a little brighter than before. If you enjoy hearing these kinds of behind-the-scenes stories, the real moments, the unexpected laughs, and the personalities that make your favorite shows come to life, then there's always more waiting to be discovered. Because sometimes the best stories aren't about what happens on camera. They're about what happens when nobody's watching.